Human development. Today we are going to deal with the lesson Introduction to Human Development. Objectives of studying this lesson are to define the study of human development and its unique features, to understand several reasons why it is important to study human development, and to define child development and understand the need and importance of child development. Human development is the change in the structure, thought or behavior of a person as a function of both biological and environmental influences. To understand human development, we must understand the human organism at all ages and stages from the point of view of biology, anthropology, sociology as well as psychology. For example, to understand and explain adult behavior, one must understand the child development, because it is important to examine the processes and the experiences of childhood that have contributed to the adult behavior. Human development is an integrated study of human lifespan. To know about the human development and behavior, we must be aware of the cultural variations also and its effect on behavior. Human development is a continuous process. This means that development does not stop at adolescence or adulthood. It continues throughout the life. It is continuously influenced by the characteristics that we are born with and by those we acquire through our experiences. The study of human development focuses on both qualitative and quantitative ways people change over a period of time. Quantitative change is fairly straightforward and relatively very easy to measure. For example, a person's growth is its height and weight. The physical skills, expansion of vocabulary, number of relationships with other people, these are all quantitative changes that can be easily measured. The study of qualitative changes is more complex. It involves progressively improving the functioning of the individual. This is possible due to a series of small steps: growth of intelligence, creativity, sociability, morality. These are some of the qualitative changes we find in human beings. Human development as a field of study includes infancy, preschool years, school age, adolescence, early adulthood, middle adulthood, late adulthood and old age. Why should we study human development? Where is the need? The study of human development has several implications. Now, let us see why we have to study human development. We learn how an average child behaves so that we can gauge particularly a child and compare him with a norm. So, the child human development is needed. Parents of a child who seem backward in development may be reassured that he or she falls within the limits of normality, or they may be advised on how they can help the child to overcome any deficiencies. And also, studying human development is very important for parents of maladjusted child. He may receive sound psychological advice that enables them to direct the child from the path that leads to trouble. Educators can better plan the class programs when they understand how the child of a given age learns best. Understanding adult development and predictable crisis of adulthood helps the professionals and lay persons alike to be prepared for life situations. So, this is the reasons of studying human development. Now, we will see what are the concepts in human development. These are the concepts necessary to understand human development. The first one is growth. Growth refers to the quantitative changes, like as earlier we said, the changes that can be easily measured, like the increase in height, weight and body proportions. Development. Development refers to both qualitative and quantitative changes. It is the emerging and expanding capacities of an individual to provide greater facility in functioning. Heredity. Heredity is the sum total of characteristics acquired at the time of conception and carried throughout the life. Environment. Environment constitutes the sum total of all the conditions and factors potentially capable of functioning of an individual. Genotype is the material inherited from the ancestors, which make the person genetically unique. Phenotype is the way genotype is expressed in observable or measurable characteristics. Maturation. Maturation refers to unfolding of traits potentially present in the individual resulting from his hereditary background or hereditary endowment. Learning. Learning refers to acquisition of new behavior or modification of previous behavior depending upon some kind of practice, exercise or mastery in a task. Phylogenetic. Phylogenetic refers to the functions common to the race such as creeping, sitting, walking depending more on maturation. Ontogenetic. It refers to the functions specific to an individual such as skill in swimming, riding, singing and artistic skills. Training and practice is essential to gain mastery in these functions. So, these are some of the concepts which are very important to understand the human development. There are several issues that we are going to visit and revisit multiple times during this course of the study. The three of these most important issues are nature versus nurture. This issue pertains to the cause of thoughts, feelings or behavior and how these change over a period of time. Nature refers to the notion that a particular characteristic is genetically determined, whereas nurture refers to the idea that a particular characteristic is environmentally determined through learning. In the original version of this debate, researchers sought to examine or determine whether the cause of specific character was genetic or learned. Now, we know both genetics and environment are virtually always work together to determine how someone feels, thinks or behaves. For example, characteristics like intelligence, depression, whether one is right or wrong, whether one is right-handed or left-handed, and how quickly one learns to speak are all determined by varying combinations of both nature and nurture. Thus, the question is now phrased in terms of how much each character is responsible for the characteristics, not which one is determining it. For example, estimates that have been generated of the proportion of intelligence that is due to genetics and the proportion that is due to environment. Both genetics and environment determine how a person thinks, feels or behaves. Now, this is the first issue, nature versus nurture. Coming to the second issue of human development, continuity versus discontinuity. What is it? Let us see. This issue refers to whether the development unfolds in a smooth gradual way over time or whether there is abrupt shift in development that leads to big jumps in what people can do over a fairly period of time. On one end of the spectrum is the view that development unfolds slowly but continuously at a fairly consistent pace. On the other hand of the spectrum is the position that development is jerky in its progress. As it proceeds slowly for longer periods, then makes a very rapid and dramatic advance in a relatively short period of time. Of course, most areas of development proceed in a manner that is intermediate between these two extremes. As with the other issues, there is no correct answer regarding whether development proceeds in a continuous or discontinuous manner. Each aspect of development proceeds somewhat differently. For example, language development, it is a discontinuous development. Indeed, it does proceed relatively slowly during the first 3 years of life, and even after that between the first year to 18 months up to 3 years of age, we can find them increase in the vocabulary, structure of language, usage improves, but not nearly at a rapid pace that occurred earlier. That means language development is very quick and very continuous during the early years of their life. After that, the progress is continuous, but it is not as quick as it happened in the early years of the life. Next issue is universal versus context specific. Is the development similar for all the individuals, or does development depend on the context in which it occurs? A universal view suggests that development unfolds basically the same way regardless of the individual's race, ethnicity, gender, socio-economic status, sexual orientation, nationality. For example, a researcher found that all children, regardless of their background, tend to follow the same pathway towards the development of language. This would support the universal position. By contrast, context specific view indicates that development occurs in different way for people from different backgrounds. For example, there is evidence that African American, Asian American, European American children, they respond differently for different types of parenting. In particular, under certain circumstances, African American and Asian American children adjust more effectively when they are parented in authoritarian style than when they are parented in authoritative style. The reverse is often true for European American children. Thus, the racial or ethnic differences in most of the optimal form of parenting provide for the example as a context specific view. These are some of the issues in studying human development. Of all the stages of human development, child development is very important. Now, let us see why child development is more important. What is the need and scope of studying child development? It is the scientific study of the changes in the child's biological, social, cognitive, emotional, behavioral domains or across the span of the childhood. Scope of child development. To understand normal course of developmental milestones, child development is needed and important part of study because it helps us to study the individual differences in child development and understand the foundations for adult behavior. It helps us informing the teachers for guiding and modifying the child's learning and his behavior, discovering the characteristics of the child at different ages. And also studying child development helps in opportunity for early detection, intervention and prevention of disabilities. Why it is important to study child development? It is important to parents, teachers and all adults who are responsible for the care, education and welfare of the child as they contribute to the child development. The study of child development provides information and basic nature of the children. Better understanding of the child would enable one to understand the adult behavior. The development principles governing the child's behavior are understood with the help of child development. The needs of the children at each stage of development can be delineated. Better understanding of the child would assist the members of society, parents, teachers, legislators, health professionals and all others concerned with the child issues to contribute to improving the human development indices. Information on the milestones or natural normal development would facilitate early detection of developmental disorders and problems and help prevent the child from becoming a handicap. The teachers also get benefited through the child study to identify the unique traits of each child and plan programs basing on the developmental needs of the child. Researchers would be able to differentiate and evaluate the effectiveness of varying points of view in the study of child. The students would benefited by being able to locate and utilize variety of resource material from the vast literature of child development. These are all the needs and importance of studying child development. Now, after knowing what is child development and why there is a need and scope of child development and why it is important to study child development, let us now try to understand the history on child development. The early studies on child development were philosophical and mystical. Adults looked upon the child as a miniature adults. They dressed them and treated them like a miniature adult, that is a small adult. Until 17th century did the concept of childhood emerged. Only after 17th century the concept of child has emerged. During the 18th century the study of child development emerged. The first effort towards the study of child were based on direct observations initiated by the child biographers of 19th century like Darwin, Preyer. They maintained careful notes on development and behavior of individual child for a period of time and thus started the method of longitudinal study, which has proved to be one of the most effective tools of research. Stanley Hall and Alfred Bennett in France carried out scientific investigations on children in late 19th and early 20th centuries out of their concern to understand the causes of human behavior. From these approaches emerged a new discipline of child development in 20th century. It took almost 2 world wars. By 1945, the child development was recognized as a discipline by the psychologists. The earlier concept of child development started with the birth of the child. Today, the scope of child development encompasses the entire span of time beginning from conception, extending to the period of adolescence and beyond. This is the history about child development, how all it has started during the early periods. Now, let us see what are the objectives of child development. To find out the characteristic changes in appearance, behavior, interest and goals from one development period to another. To find out when these changes occur under what conditions. And to find out how these changes are affecting the child's behavior. And to find out whether these changes are predictable or not. The last objective is to find out these changes, are they unique or common to all the children. After knowing the objectives of child development, let us see what are the areas of development we are going to deal. Physical development. Physical development, as everyone knows, is about the height, weight and body proportions. Physiological development, that is the internal body parts and their functions. Cognitive development, the development of cognitions like thinking or reasoning, problem solving, etc. will be dealt in this. Social development, social behavior and interactions. Emotional development, emotional behavior and emotional relationships are dealt in emotional development. Language, development of speech and different languages. Moral development, development of sense of what is right and wrong. Motor development, it includes both gross motor and fine motor skills. These are the areas of development which we are going to study in child development. One of the definition of child development is that it is the science of development and behavior of the children. The behavior patterns of the childhood pave way to the behavior patterns in adulthood. During the early periods, the scholar confined this child development study only to the developmental pattern. Their followers integrated the information from varied other sources and allied sciences such as nutrition, health, education, social work. These entitles, which permit objective and quantitative measurements, strengthen the subject of child development. Today, one of the major tasks of child development is integration of the findings of various fields into a harmonious unit of knowledge as explained. Physical sciences. Physiology. The discipline of physiology is concerned with growth and functioning of the body tissues, organs which have effect on the development and behavior of the human being. Medicine, especially pediatrics. The physician is concerned more than keeping records of height and weight, diagnosing and treating the usual childhood diseases and prescribing medicine. The physician has to rely heavily on thorough knowledge of human growth and development. Psychiatry is another interrelated field, is a specialized branch of medicine concerned with prevention of mental and emotional illness. The psychiatry must be familiar with the normal human aspects like the physical, mental, social and emotional. He must be able to discriminate between normal variations in individuals and signs of illness or pathological behavior which indicates serious disturbances and call for special treatment. The discipline of pediatrics deals with the child health and medicine and emphasizes the developmental history of understanding the child and information about the prenatal factors and nutritional influences. Pediatrics is also concerned with the norms and assessment of developmental status of the child. Genetics. It deals with the studies the influence of hereditary factors on child development. The specialized field of genetics sheds light on the inheritance characteristics of succeeding generations from the preceding ones. Social sciences. Psychology. Psychology deals primarily with the man's behavior and his adjustment to the environment. Developmental psychology is concerned with chronological and progressive changes in man's capacity to deal with his environment. Understanding and measuring the individual differences, personality development and the learning process. Interpersonal relationships, the nature of adjustment made by the individuals in achieving and maintaining the healthy social behavior. All these areas have significant study of the child development, especially in understanding the laws and principles that govern the unique development and behavioral pattern of each individual's child. Thus, psychology helps to get an insight into intricacies of our common heritage and the human nature. It unfolds the amazing depth of and endless possibilities of human mind. Anthropology. It contributes to the understanding of human beings by pointing out the cultural influences on the developing personalities. Anthropology, which is the study of the human species in their cultures, has two aspects, both culture and physical. Cultural anthropology seeks to throw light on man's nature and social behavior in relation to his intentions. The physical anthropology is concerned with the man as a physical being. It deals with the physical status and characteristics and has his origin and evaluation. Through careful measurements of human body and its parts at different periods and stages of development, the field assesses the nature of growth process. Sociology. It refers to the total personality of the function of human relationship. Sociology is a scientific knowledge about the behavior of human beings in relation to other human beings. It is concerned directly with the man's behavior in relation to various other human groups in which he holds membership, especially with those which he is closely identified and in which he participates directly. Sociologists help to interpret the nature of the family and other social groups which play a vital role in development of the child and the nature of the society and the various other social institutions. All these have influence on the thoughts, feelings and actions of the child and adults. Sociology explains the powerful role played by different socializing agencies such as home, school, community in the personality development of the child. The basic nature of the child cannot be separated from the social environment in which the personality is molded. Education. It refers to the study of the child in educational setting. The field of education has benefited greatly from the ever increasing knowledge on the characteristics of the growing child. The schools need to design and organize their programs in keeping with the level of readiness of the child. Seeking and gaining an understanding of the individual child in school by parents and teachers is important for his development. Educators and nutritionists have learned that the child and the subject matter cannot be separated from each other in a classroom. A good school program is more than a series of courses. It is based on the sound knowledge of the nature of the child's growth in general and on thorough understanding of the individual pupil in particular. So, this is the way the child development is related with other sciences. So, today as an introductory part, we have seen what is human development, and we have tried to understand the need and importance of studying human development. In human development, we studied that child development is very integral and important part of human development. We tried to understand how and why it is important for studying child development. Then we have understood the history of child development, how all the child development started and it developed into a science. So, human development, it refers to the biological and psychological development of human beings throughout lifespan. It consists of the development from infancy to adulthood. Developmentalists have learned that the first 12 years of life in the stage of adolescence and adulthood through the path of developmental changes continues till the middle age and beyond also. Human development is continuous process and the changes occurs at each major phase of life and has implications for future life. We also understood that developmental changes that occur are due to heredity and also environment. So, development is grounded in the notion that heredity or biological or genetic forces influence the nature and direct course of developmental changes. Scientists like Darwin, Jessel, Stanley Hall, they are all debated and supported the issue of developmental changes according to the heredity. Thank you.